Hello, welcome back to Financial Fix with Sharnella. Today I would like to discuss with you job stability. And when I say job stability, I'm not just talking about your employer needing you. I'm talking also about whether or not you'll be able to continue working that job over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So let's think about it from this perspective. You've been working your job for 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden you have a financial crisis, or should I say a medical crisis. Suddenly you have a medical crisis, and you've been on this job for 10 or 15 years, and unfortunately you're going to be off work for much longer than you anticipate. So the company says to you, well, thanks for your service, but we can't hold your position. You're going to be out too long. You're going to be out, say, maybe 3 to 6 months. This is the conversation I'd like to have with you. What happens if you're unable to work? Job stability, again, isn't just determined by whether or not your company will need you in the long run, but also you have to consider, will I be able to work for this company in the long run? And especially if it's a job that requires a lot of physical activity. Are you in a position to continue working into your 50s, 60s? And do you even want to? So let's talk about plan B. Because plan A, everyone can work a job until they retire or until they die for some of us. Let's talk about plan B. Plan B is where you establish a set savings plan along with investment plan that generates enough savings for you so that if in the event you find that you can't work, or you're out of work due to unemployment, or for instance you just decide you don't want to work anymore, do you have enough savings in the bank to cover your expenses? Minimally, I always recommend people have at least 6 months of savings in the bank to cover all your expenses. That includes your mortgage, taxes, insurance, car note if you have one, car insurance, all of your utilities, any bill that you pay on the monthly basis should be, you should have at least 6 months of those payments in the bank at all times. So in other words, if it costs about $4,000 for you to cover all of your expenses, including food and recreational activities, if that number is $4,000, then you need to minimally have $24,000 in the bank at all times, 6 months, so that if in any case you find yourself either unemployed, or you decide that you need a break from work, you don't want to work anymore, or in the event that you fall ill, because illnesses is something that happens to all of us, young, middle-aged, and in our elderly years. So again, we just want to make sure that you're always prepared for the future, for any event that takes place that will take you out of work. I can't express to you how many people who right now, they don't even have a month worth of savings in the bank. And that's either because they're living too far above their means, and they didn't, they're not focusing on saving, or they didn't start saving soon enough, or maybe they are investing, but the investments just aren't paying off well. Maybe they've made some bad investments, as we all have. You'll make bad investments from time to time, but then once you realize that you're on a path of bad investing, then you have to take a step back, reanalyze where you are, and get back on the right track so that you can invest wisely and smartly. But along with investments, it's okay to invest in your 403b if you're in a hospital environment, or a 401k for most other businesses. But it is very, very important that you have a cash savings as well, because in the time of need, an urgent need, you won't be able to withdraw funds from that 401k or the 403b without additional penalties. Yes, it's your money, but it's designed to be a retirement asset, not one that is used typically for everyday expenses today. So if you do plan to utilize those funds, or if you have to tap into those funds, the government penalizes you, taking 10% on top of whatever current tax rate you're in. So if you're in the 24% tax bracket, if you take out $10 or $15, $20,000 to cover monthly bills because you didn't anticipate being off work, being unemployed, then they're going to tax that 15 or 20,000 at your current tax rate, 24%, plus they're going to slap on another 10% penalty. So you'll always want to be prepared for your long-term future as well as your short-term future, because that's very important. And I wouldn't be speaking to you today if I hadn't made certain plans and set in place certain provisions so that I could be here. Because when I was working a job 40 hours a week, it was very, very hard and very stressful to write my book. Papa Fool Spent His Money. It was very difficult for me to focus on coaching other people into a better financial position, because not only did that job take 40 hours of working time away from me, but not including the drive time, a couple of hours each week, and then preparation for work, a couple of hours each week. So in all, the job probably took about 45 to 48 hours away from my regular schedule. But moving forward, I'm here for you. I'm here for my viewers. I'm here for the people who want to understand how to build a safer and a more efficient financial future for themselves. There's another topic that I'm learning more about. It's more of a developing topic for me. Right now, I think the industry where jobs are most stable would probably be in the medical field to some degree. Not necessarily a doctor or a radiologist, because I think in time, AI could possibly take over those jobs because they would likely be a bit more efficient than your traditional human doctor or human radiologist. And for those of you who don't know, a radiologist is a person who, or should I say a doctor who reads CAT scans, MRIs, X-rays, any imaging study that is performed in the hospital. But the actual workers in the hospital, in radiology, ultrasound, nursing, nurses' aides, with people who require hands-on treatment of patients, I believe will be very secure in their jobs in the future. Now, engineers, not so much. AI robots are being built that are smarter than the average human being right now, and probably in the next maybe few years, these AI computers will be smarter than the average genius. Who knows? So be very careful when choosing a career. Be very careful if you're already in a career where AI can take over and eliminate your job. The tech field is also, technology is an area where AI is really taking over and doing a very, very phenomenal job above and beyond humans. So if you're in that field, if you're in tech, the only thing I can say is, the only advice I can give to you is be the smartest and brightest that you can be, and become the asset that your company can't afford to lose. And but in the meantime, create an escape plan. And what I mean by that is, you might want to consider maybe increasing your investments, increasing your savings, so that if you do need to return to school to develop a new skill, you'll be able to do that. If the time comes when your job is threatened or your job is taken, then you'll have some reserves in the bank to not only live on, but then also return back to school to acquire a new degree. For those of you who've been in the field for a while, You too may decide to retire early from the field, or again, go back to school now and find a different career that perhaps is more secure in the future. Because again, AI is a great technology, but I think that it's definitely going to replace a lot of human jobs, unfortunately. And so we all need to be prepared for that, and we just need to be more financially savvy in case the job is not there when we want it and when we need it. So in the end, the most important thing to remember is, rather you have a secure job or whether you have a job that's where you think that the job security is on the line, I want you to remember it's always a good idea to be financially secure, to have at least 6 months of savings in the bank at all times, and if possible 2 years, because in my opinion you can never have too much money saved. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who will say, well, if you have your money sitting in the bank, you're not really earning much money, and it's, you're losing money on it. On one hand, that is true, but on the other hand, there are investments that you can put your money in, such as CDs. No, they're not going to make as much money, but you might get 5% on the CD, as opposed to letting that money sit in your savings account earning no money. But again, let's back up. It's important to have a large savings, at least 6 months up to 2 years of savings. I would recommend, if you have beyond 6 months of savings in the bank, go ahead, put that money in a CD for 6 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years, whatever. Because the most important thing is, when you need the money, you want to be able to access it. And in most cases, even if your money is tied up in a CD for a year or 2 years, if you decide that you need that money prior to the maturity date of that CD, most banks will allow you to break that agreement, and you can take that money out in an emergency. You'll just forfeit your interest. However, if you decide to put all of your money in the stock market, which I don't recommend, at the time that you need the money, if the stock market is down and you have to sell, then obviously you're selling at a loss. And the whole point in saving and investing is to always move in an upward trajectory. You always want to be in a position where you're earning money, not losing money. So I do believe in diversification. You put a little money here, a little money there, a little money over here. But you should always, again, have money that is accessible. Never let yourself go broke, because the moment you go broke, oftentimes that's when all crap hits the fan, and then all of a sudden you need cash, and you're using your credit cards to pay off, certain things that you need in the moment. So we want to avoid that. So the lesson of the day is, no job really is secure. Either one, because maybe you may get ill and you're not able to work, so your job will not be secure, especially if you can't work for a long period of time. Number two, the job may not be secure because your employer may decide that they're going to eliminate your position. They no longer need you. Maybe they need to downsize. So those are two good reasons why you should have a big savings. You should have a large savings of at least 6 months to a year. And I keep repeating myself because I want you to understand the importance of it. Having cash in the bank is extremely important. Never invest every single dime. Always have some money left over for yourself in case of an emergency. Thank you for watching Financial Fix with Sharnella, and I will see you on the next episode. If you've been enjoying my content, please like and subscribe.